Hello everyone, welcome to another session on entrepreneurship and early startups. Today we are going to start another session on 4 P's of marketing. 4 P's are the conceptual framework of marketing decision making, a work of Jerome McCarthy, an American professor of marketing. These 4 P's include product, price, promotion, and placement. It was first published in McCarthy's book titled Basic Marketing, a Managerial Approach in 1960. So now let's look at our agenda today. What we have today, we are going to cover 4 P's of marketing mix. At least we will start this. In today's session, we will just be covering product and price. So then we will also see that since 1960, when this marketing framework or the marketing mix was first proposed, these 4 P's have been extended to 7 P's, and we'll give it some consideration today. We look into product, how are goods differentiated from the services? Because both goods and services, they are products. So how can we differentiate between them, or what is the good to service continuum? We'll also look into the 4 elements framework for goods and service differentiation, and we will consider tangibility, perishability, inseparability, and heterogeneity. We will see the total product versus augmented product, how you see your product and how your customers see them, and what are the fundamentals of product branding, and we'll try and explain this through an example from the US market, that is Edsel, which was Ford car brands, and the experiment which Coke did by introducing new Coke. And we'll see how ideas actually are developed from generation to commercialization through screening, evaluation, and product development. So this will be all about the products, and then we will see what does the price do and what are the fundamentals of product pricing, and how we do the margin pricing, what is price elasticity, and how do the law of supply and demand affect the product pricing, the price tag your products carry. And last but not the least, we will see what is value and what are other contextual factors that play their role when a price tag is decided about a product. So before we actually get on to the 4 P's, let's differentiate between sales and marketing. Sometimes we are confused about the difference between marketing and sales. Marketing is planning and putting the 4 P's into practice. When we say 4 P, I mean product, price, promotion, and placement. So putting these 4 P's into practice is a very clear objective. And this objective is to satisfy the goals of an entrepreneur. This is marketing. So let me say this again. Marketing is actually the planning and putting the 4 P's into practice with a very clear objective. And that objective is to satisfy the goals of the entrepreneur who developed the product. On the other hand, sales focus on pitching a product to a customer. Their sales are the principal way for a business to make money. Marketing forges the best way to get the sales going. For the businesses to be successful, both sales and marketing, they should go hand in glove. So let's look at the 4 P's one by one. We have these 4 P's: product, price, and promotion and placement. And this 4 P framework has been extended because first time it was proposed in 1960. Since 1960, the 4 P framework have been extended from time to time, and now in addition to product, price, promotion, and placement, it includes people, process, and physical evidence. So this is what Jerome McCarthy proposed in his book on marketing in 1960, and that was basic marketing, a managerial approach, and this is what has been extended beyond this 4P. So let's look at these P's, means product, price, promotion, and placement one by one. In today's session, we will see the product and price. In our next session, we will cover both promotion and placement. The first one is product. So the question is, what is a product and what is it used for? Or what are the goods, or are the goods and services always sold separate? And if we can sell them combined, are there an example? So a product is a generic term used for anything that is offered to satisfy customer needs, wants, and demands. So at the heart of this marketing, we have customer, and the customer needs, wants, and demands, they are going to drive the whole process. So what we actually do to furnish or to satisfy the customer needs, wants, and demands, they are called products. So the products are existing, or they are manufactured, or they're forged, they're brought to life to satisfy the customer needs, wants, and his demands. So next question, are goods and services always separable, or can you sell them separate, or they are always in combination? The products actually, they could include both goods as well as services. Some of the goods we can include their cars, toys, medical equipment like ventilator, face masks. And the services could include a tour guide company, a bank, a consulting firm, or maybe an auto care outlet. This is where we can actually differentiate between goods and the services. This is a product to service continuum, or we can call it tangibility spectrum. Tangible, a product that we can touch with our hands. For example, a cell phone. If you go to a market, a supermarket, and you buy a cell phone, you make a payment and get a product that you can touch. That is a pure good. So, but if you go to a restaurant, or you go to a motel, or if you go to a hill station where you stay there for a couple of nights, and you make payment against that you get stay. When you stay and you make payment, when you walk away from the hotel, you do not get anything with you. It means that the product that you have received at that particular resort is not a physical product that you can touch, or a tangible product. So this is where we call it the pure service. So both service and goods, they are they're existing. Sometimes they are sold in pure forms. So at the two extremes of the tangible spectrum, we have pure good and pure service. And most of the time, this is where we are operating. We are either operating in a hybrid mode, or we have a good dominated product, or we have a service dominated product. This feature of tangibility actually distinguishes goods from services. In many cases, we are involved in selling a combination of goods and services. So let's look at this from a customer's perspective. So we have an example over here. So what customer wants actually? From a customer's perspective, a customer wants to satisfy his transportation needs in a customized way. As an entrepreneur, you have spotted this opportunity, and now you are looking for what options you and customers have, and how do they fit on a tangibility spectrum. So what you are selling, or what customer is paying for, shall be placed over here. So if we look at it from the customer perspective, he will start it with buying a car. So if he only buys a car, say he buys a used car, and there is no guarantee or anything like a warranty or post-sale service or any liability on the seller, he is only buying a car. It is a pure product. It's a pure good. So we are on this edge of the spectrum. So if the customer buy a new car and this particular purchase that does include a tangible good, which is car, but it does not end here. While making the payment for the new car, all that your check include is not a hardware price. It also includes some money against the warranty cover and in some cases the extended warranty, a satellite radio service maybe. So if you are getting a new car and the payment you are making is, you know, in large going against this physical product, but it's not only the car which you are paying for, you're also paying for some allied services as well. So over here, major payment is going for the good, but there are some allied services, so we call it as good dominated product. So here it was only good. Now we have made some transition. So this is good dominated product. But from if we again getting back to the car example, what if the customer decide not to buy the car and he goes for a car leasing option? Instead of making a payment from his own pocket at one time, he goes for the car leasing option. Now, when he goes for the car leasing option, the hardware lies with the customer. He is holding the car, but he's not the owner of the car. He does not own it. The car is owned by the leasing company, and the customer is just getting the use of it, which is service. So now we have slightly moved from the good to word service. Over here, the product was only good. Over here, the product was good, dominated, but there were some allied services over here. So the customer was owning the car over here. Over here, he is still using the car, but he is not the owner of the car. The ownership of the car lies with the company or the financing arrangement that has been made. The customer, as the car lies with the customer, he is responsible for the maintenance cost in addition to the fuel cost. So the customer is taking care of the tangible product which is good, but in the context of lease. Leasing a car is an example of a hybrid model. Over here, we have almost moved into the middle of this particular spectrum. So this is a combination of good and services. So then we move further back. How about if the customer decides that he's not going to buy a car, he's going to rent a car, where the car company pays for the maintenance as well as for the fuel in some cases. The customer only pays and he drives the car. Now it has become a service dominated product. What was a good dominated product here has turned into a service dominated product. If we take it further beyond this, the customer may end up ordering a cab. He just orders a cab like Uber or Cream. So this will become a pure service now, where the customer has paid for the pick and drop, and the rest is managed by the cab company. So this is a pure service, just like the motel or the restaurant example we have seen on the previous slide. So this tangibility is not the only feature which can help us distinguish between the service and good. There are three other distinguishing features that can help us to differentiate between goods and services. They are tangibility that we have already seen, perishability, and then inseparability, and last but not the least is heterogeneity. So let's look at them one by one. So perishability. A service exhibits perishability in that if it is not used when offered, it cannot be saved for later use. The perishability problem is quite dominant in car rentals. If a cab goes without fare for an hour, it is actually revenue lost for an hour. On the other hand, if a dealer holds a car on sale at its dealership, it is going to recover almost full value of the car regardless of when the car is sold. In this case, the car being good are non-perishable. So the service is perishable, goods are generally non-perishable. The next dimension is inseparability. The inseparability dimension can also help us to distinguish between the two, means the good and the service. Taking again the car example slightly further, if the car is used as cab service, it is an example of inseparability. The service and the consumption of the service, they are happening at the same time. On the other hand, when the customer buys a car, it could be 1 week or 6 months old. In this case, the production of the product can be separated from the consumption of the product. So, in case of service, the offering and consumption, they have to be made at the same time. Whereas in case of the goods, the manufacturing or the production and the consumption, they can happen at different intervals of time. Last but not the least is heterogeneity. The heterogeneity is another differentiating feature, I must say. Products are considered to be homogeneous and consistent, whereas the services have the tendency to go heterogeneous. It is less likely that a product in the form of a car or a mobile phone shall vary significantly if you buy it from the same company. The service offered, on the other hand, may go drastically different on another day. So this is how we can differentiate products and services. Products are homogeneous. So if you buy, say, an iPhone X, and then another months down the line, you again buy iPhone X, it's very unlikely that you find any fundamental difference between the two goods. Whereas if you go to a restaurant and you do a party over there, and then you recommend the restaurant, and your friends go there again, and they may experience actually a totally different environment over there. So the services, they tend to be heterogeneous. So to tackle this heterogeneity problems in services, organizations do a lot. They manage employee training programs. They have identical or nearly identical store layouts, employee uniforms, services offered, or same sort of prices, and the automation of the services. Understanding these characteristics or dimensions across the product and service continuum can help us actually position our product better. It is also very pertinent here to understand the difference between the total product and the augmented product, means how customers see and how you as an entrepreneur see your product. So if we see this is the designer and here comes the customer. So the customer's view about your product can be significantly different from your own. So the entire package of the product, services, and anything extra included into the product, like extended warranty or delivery, is what constitutes the total product. This is what actually the customer sees. He may not see the car only. If he is going for the leasing option, the arrangements made with the financial institution or the bank or the financing company, they may also significantly affect the experience customer have about the product. This is called total product. This is the customer's description of your product or service. So as I've already given you an example, as a car manufacturer, you manufacture cars which the customer can lease. If the lease you offer to the customer includes certain banking or financing arrangement, the experience generated by both tangible product, which is car in this case, and the allied services offered make up the total product. It could also include the after-sales service the customer receives at the designated dealerships. The quality and cost of the after-sales service may be a significant part of the total product. So augmented product is just a car in this case. In this particular example, as a manufacturer or a designer or an entrepreneur, your product is only car. But anything which is associated with the car that comes into the customer experience also constitute the total product. So then we have some do's and don'ts on the product branding. Like yourself, the products to have a personality, and that comes through your brand. Branding helps separate your product from the competition. Sometimes entrepreneurs want to name their startups after their own names, means after themselves. It may not be a problem in many cases, but it is also not very clear to the potential customer what do you do. For example, if your company is named as Mughal Company, so the Mughal Company may not reveal what business Mughal is in. However, if the company is named as Mughal Steel Company, this is more appropriate and shall attract a whole different clientele when compared to Mughal beauty supplies. Another issue that is associated with naming your company after yourself is it uh, becomes issue when you actually decide to sell the company. The new owner is not going to like to explain it to everyone that Mr. So and so is no more associated with the company. The company has new owners installed. So we should, as an entrepreneur, also be aware of the names that are too narrow or for the company to grow. For example, if you are an entrepreneur in a food business and your product is named as jams and jelly, this may be okay for the time being. But what would you do if you want to introduce a new product line such as juices, candies, and pies? In modern business, it is very important to have your company's own website. This can be a constraint in the selection of the company's name, as the web domains may not be available with your own name. So this is actually how you can have your company's name decided. So many companies do not use their name on any single product. For example, here we have a product mix of Procter and Gamble. So Procter and Gamble is an example, and where no product actually is named as Procter and Gamble. All product lines, they have different name. This can be helpful in many ways. If the product is a drastic failure, the failure may not affect the other product lines and shall not damage the company's repute or image overall. This can be explained through an example of two failed products. So we have Nuco and then we have Edsel. Coca-Cola in the last decades of 20th century, they started to feel competition from Pepsi, which was an emerging competitor, and they decided to try a new product and they introduced New Coke. So New Coke turned out to be a drastic failure, and the Coke had to suffer a lot, and they have to withdraw this new product. Similarly, Ford in 1950s, they introduced Edsel, and Edsel did not carry Ford's name anywhere on it. So like New Coke, Edsel was also a failure, but it was failure of Edsel, not the failure of Ford. Whereas naming the new product as New Coke turned out to be the failure of Coke itself. So digging down into the Coke's failure story, in 1992, the Coke was renamed. They conducted blind test, and there was an indication that the customers seemed to prefer the sweeter taste of the rival Pepsi Cola. So the Coca-Cola recipe was reformulated. However, the American public reaction to the change was negative, and New Coke was considered a major failure. This led to speculation that the New Coke formula had been a marketing ploy to stimulate the sales of original Coca-Cola, which the company has denied. Coke was discontinued in July 2002, and Coca-Cola has never disclosed how much it lost in the New Coke fiasco. So, but independent studies or the estimates, they are placed around that Coca-Cola took a hit of around 30 million on unwanted concentrate for the New Coke. Similarly, in 1950s, Ford introduced Edsel, and this was a big failure too. So dropping New Coke was more damaging for the Coca-Cola when compared to the failure that Ford had to face in the form of Edsel. The Edsel's pre-launch campaign was around a sentence that Edsel is coming. People got curious. High level of secrecy was maintained. No one was allowed to get a word out, not even the car dealerships. The car dealers uh, were to pay fines for showing the glimpses of Edsel to the prospective customers. So the cars were kept under cover. Edsel was an ugly car. It did not fail because it was ugly. It failed because it failed to live up to the expectations they have created through the marketing campaign. So after Edsel's failure, this was dropped. But as Edsel never carried the name of the Ford company, it was not as damaging on a comparative basis to the Ford as the new Coke was to Coca-Cola. So here we have a new product development diagram. So a conventional new product development diagram that has it starts with the ideation or idea generation, and some of the sources for the business ideas can come from end users, customers, salespeople, marketing research, or the competitors. Then once we have the ideas generated, it is very important to screen them for their business potential. And what we look into, our metric include objective fit, return on investment, product fit, and then research or market research. And then the ideas that are screened at this step, they are evaluated after testing the concepts and conducting the business analysis. Then we have the product development where the actual product is developed, the prototypes, and the market tests are done in the form of alpha and beta tests. And last but not the least step is the commercialization phase, which is marketing, plan, production, and then market introduction. To generate ideas, we can use Scamper, which is a very famous technique for the idea generation, and this is actually substitute, combine, adapt, modify, put to other use, eliminate, and last but not the least is reorder or rearrange. If you have a product already existing and you want to innovate the product to generate the ideas out of many schemes that we have, Scamper is one of them. Then for idea screening, these I2P steps we can execute. We can all the ideas that have been generated, they could be seen through this lens, and we can screen the more fit ideas or the fittest ones can come for the evaluation. So feasibility studies can be conducted to evaluate the ideas. So when we are actually looking at the screening step, what we have to look here when we are screening the ideas, we may look for product innovativeness and uniqueness, market and customer needs, and market size. and then we may also give due weightage to the intellectual property. If an idea passes this innovativeness, market size, and the customer needs, and then the intellectual property test, it is actually passed over the screening test, and then a decision is made about that idea, that how to proceed with the idea. So you may have to extend your screening a bit more, and that can include who are the people that are behind the idea, and what are the additional resources that you need to bring the idea into the market or into life. And the third one could be the profitability of the idea. So screening criteria can be expanded from the product innovativeness and uniqueness, market and customer needs, and intellectual property. So this is the first step. Once an idea clears these hurdles, then there are three more, which include that if you have to bring that idea into life, do you need extra resources or additional resources, or what are the chances of the idea being profitable, and then who are the people behind the idea. So when we are doing the idea evaluation, we need to do the feasibility study. The feasibility analysis generally contains a few components like business description, product or service description, industry and market analysis, basic financial projections, and future action plans. So when the feasibility study is completed, so the question is, where does the feasibility analysis generally lead to, or what are the results? Once the feasibility study is completed, we can come to one of the three conclusions. Say the first conclusion could be the idea cannot be economically made into a product or service. Although the idea was generated, it had the potential. It was screened, and then the evaluation results may actually decide otherwise. So despite the fact that it deemed fit for development, when we evaluated the idea, we found that the idea cannot be economically made into the product or service. And there could be multiple constraints like the existing level of the technology that cannot convert the idea into the product. And another result could be the resulting product or service works, but it does not appeal to a large enough market to make the effort profitable. So the idea is valid, it can be converted into product, but there are not enough customers. And if there are not enough customers, there's not enough market, we can't make the idea a profitable business. And last but not the least is that the product works and it has actually market, and it could be profitable, but it needs additional resources, more people to convert the idea into a successful business model. So this is these three. Once the evaluation results are there, the feasibility study recommends, then the product development process actually starts. That has been covered in an earlier lecture, that what are the pitfalls of the common waterfall product development process, and how those Steve Blank's 4 steps to epiphany, they are a better substitute for the product development. So this was all about product. Now comes the pricing. The pricing actually, it looks easy, but for the young entrepreneur, setting a price can be a dilemma. One of the toughest decisions these entrepreneurs could ever face would be pricing. This is because the price they put on their product is directly going to be translated into their personal income. The decision of putting up a price tag on your product is going to affect how many sales you are going to make. It is a double-edged sword. Price conveys the quality of your organization, and at the similar time, it has to be made on affordable and sustainable basis, so that there is large enough customer base to make the idea or business profitable. So it's tricky, and as your name is involved, it's emotional most of the time. There are various complexities involved with the process of setting a price tag. As an entrepreneur, most of the time you are not operating in a vacuum. You have competing alternatives in the marketplace, and many times you are bringing an alternative to the existing range of solutions. So, what is the optimum price? The price that would generate the most income over the year in a sustainable way is optimum price. So, here's the question. Sometimes you may end up after a year, are my prices too high? If the sales are less than what you expect, you may ask, are my prices too high? But if the sales are more than what you expect, you may end up asking a question, are my prices too low? So, what are the factors or the determinants that can help us determine an optimum price? This could include the demand for the product or service, or the value delivered to the customer, or the prices set by the competing firms, or last but not the least is the business strategy and product development. So when we look for the demand of the product or service, where the demand is high, a premium price can be charged. But when the demand is low, we should consider lowering the prices to keep the business floating. So value delivered to the customer is a very important determinant. You may buy a facial mask and it may cost you around $10 and you may use it many times. But if you visit an executive salon, you may end up paying manifold price of the actual product. So this is actually not only the value or the manufacturing value of the product, it's actually the service that you have received, you are paying against that. So your competitors, they are another very firm reality. So if a liter of Coke costs $1, very few shall be paying $2 for a liter of Pepsi. Similarly, if Toyota charges around 20,000 for its 1.3 liter car, Honda cannot charge $30,000 while operating in the same market for their car of similar specifications. And last but not the least, a business strategy and the product development. If you are an environmentally conscious company and there is enough customer base who support the cause, you may afford to set up a higher price for not using the cheaper and non-recyclable components. So this is how this optimum pricing is done. Then we have the margin pricing and the law of supply and demand. So what does the young entrepreneur end up doing at the end? They use some of the arbitrary rules of thumb to determine the price tag for their products. Say they add something like 40% on the top of what they have spent on producing the unit good or service. Another way to do is that they make the actual cost, say 40% of what they have on the price tag. The question is, are these rules of thumb good? Do they suit to the specific business of a young entrepreneur? The plain answer to these questions is no. A price setting method in which a fixed amount is added to the cost of the product to determine its retail price is called margin pricing. So we have an example here. Let's try and sell a custom designed t-shirt, which is shown over here, for $20. So how would you work out the price for this? So these are the components. You may end up buying the cotton t-shirt for $3, and then you have the ink and the effort and the equipment for another $2.50. Then the marketing costs, such as the flyers and a few shirts given away, the connectors and the mavens, it can cost you $50, 50 cents, and then you have sold it for $20, and this is what you have made up. The markup is $14, which is the difference between the selling price and whatever you have spent in producing the particular good. And the percentage markup is, in this case, is 14, which is the difference of these two, and that's 233%. Whereas The margin on sale is the ratio between your net profit divided by the total cost that you have charged the customer, and it comes out to be 70%. So what happens? This is margin pricing. Now see, this is to explain the concept of elasticity over here. So for this shirt that we have taken the example of, and we have done the earlier rough calculations for this, you are going to sell a number of t-shirts, each priced at $20. What if you cannot sell this shirt at this price and you decide to drop the price so that more people can buy? Now you have half the price, so you shall be selling double the number of t-shirts to keep your average the same. This is called price elasticity. So in this particular product, the product is elastic, but not all the products are elastic in nature. The products that have no or a few substitutes or alternatives are called inelastic. T-shirt is an elastic product as it may have substitutes or alternatives like cheaper t-shirts, used t-shirts, or other types of t-shirts. So you might buy one t-shirt at $10 each per month, but when asked to pay $20, you may not buy it at all. Because the product is elastic, you can afford to cut back on it. Now compare this t-shirt with gasoline. When the petrol prices go up, you may cut back on your driving, but that has a limit. The gasoline is inelastic. So the other example could be like food, some basic clothing and transportation and the utilities. All of these are inelastic products because there are not many alternatives existing. So this is the very reason we see more clothing stores being closed down when the economy is not doing good when compared to the petrol stations, because what the petrol station is selling, they are inelastic products. So the other theory that can that can help you setting up the price is the law of supply and demand. If something is in high demand or is in low supply, that can be priced higher. So, but if it has, on the other hand, if it has low demand and high supply, then you have to price it low. So the question is, can the theory of elasticity and the law of supply and demand go wrong? The answer is yes, of course. They are laws of economics. They're not the laws of nature. Sometimes when you drop the product price, especially for the elastic products, when you drop the price, it can actually carry a negative message. The drop in price may be translated on the customer end as a drop in quality. So despite the fact that you have half the price, your sales may not improve as you have expected when you were making this calculation. So then two more things which can affect pricing or the fundamental how you actually decide the price tag about your product. They are value and some of the contextual factors. So to understand value, we should try and understand why people pay extra. Why an iPhone typically costs more than an Android phone? The answer is that the price customers are willing to pay is a function of their value they received or they perceive that they have received. So another point to consider is that if it is always good to set a price lower than your competition. So how good is it? Not always. So it looks as if you can lower the price always, the sales are going to go up, but this may not be true always. There are two reasons for this. That setting a price below your competition can be disastrous. So the first reason is when the prices are dropped in the hope that sales would go up, the revenue lost in dropping the prices is hardly made up by the potential boost in sales. And secondly, when your competition quickly realizes this, that you have lowered the prices, they shall also lower the prices to match yours. This shall bring the sale volume to the level before the price cut. So this will actually, this may not be helping all the time. So another question is, can you always set a price higher than your competition? The answer is again, not always. A better approach is to assess what features of your product are loved by the customers and they are willing to pay for them. It is extremely important to have your customers' perception right about the value they are receiving by using your product. So, how to decide the optimum price? If you are operating at a business maximum capacity, how will you determine the optimum price? Or in case you are operating below the business capacity, how will you decide that what is the optimum price? So one of the major tasks in new business or a product is setting up the optimum price. What it should be. If the business is operating profitably near the maximum capacity, the right price is the one that maximizes the probability of sales. Say your business is holding a pharmaceutical patent that shall manufacture a medicine that shall grow hairs on abandoned pets. Initially, you can set up high prices as there are not many competitors because you're holding a patent to grow hairs over here. But as the patent approaches its termination, you may end up lowering the price to capture the maximum market in order to create a barrier for the new entrants. In case your business is performing below the capacity, you may set up a price that is just enough to meet your production cost and keep your stock working. So in this case, if it's not performing very well, then the price that you will set is going to cover your running expenses and the salaries that you are paying to your customers. It is very important to examine the marketing prices for the similar products and the services. That is what your competition has to offer to the customer. So whatever your competitors are offering to your customers is very important. You have to see what exactly is being offered, and your pricing of the product should match that. You may have to compare the similarities and the differences among your competitors' offering and figure out what features of the competitor's product are desired by the customer. You may get some clues from their comparisons and set the price of your own product. So there are several contextual factors that may affect the price you set for your product. They may include company's objectives, marketing strategy, channels of distribution, competition, and last but not the least, the regulatory or legal issues regarding your product. So let's look at them one by one. So here we have these are all actually the contextual factors. So what we have in companies' objectives, a small business that you are holding, especially if you are a young entrepreneur, you should not have the objective of increasing your market share by lowering your price. This may be a good strategy for a large firm or a well-established company as they have deep pockets. They have geographical diversity and large product lines. So if they do a price cut on one of their product line, they can compensate this through another product line. And but this facility is not available if you are a young entrepreneur just entering into the market. Another one, the small firms should also avoid the price competition with the reason that they may not be working at full capacity. but paying all the overheads like rents and salaries. So profit maximization is a better option for the young and small firms. This does not mean that they should come with very expensive product. What this does mean is that the price must be above the average market price. It is better for the young and small firms to compete on innovativeness and product quality instead of price. This is how David can beat Goliath. Then we have the marketing strategy. So what we have in marketing strategy, whatever the price tag you put on your product, it must be consistent with company's overall marketing strategy. If you are advertising higher quality, but your price is lower than your competition, this is a kind of inconsistency that must be avoided. Your customers may not believe your advertising message. So consistency is the key. Then we have the distribution channels. The channels of distributions can result in price escalation. All the middlemen involved in carrying your product to the customer are going to make some money out of it. So if you cannot sell direct, you should ensure that the product is still priced correctly and competitively when it reaches the customers. Then we have the competition. Competitors are important reality. They are very important consideration in price setting. Analyze what your competitors' product bring to the customer, like additional services, brand recognition, comfort of knowing a big company, and similar stuff. You can come up with a good athlete shoes like as good as Nike, but you do not provide the prestige of the Nike's logo. Then there are the regulatory issues. The prices of many items are regulated by the government. The government may fix the price maximums or price minimums. So you are supposed to obey whatever the regulatory issues are related to your product. So then we have this pricing toolbox, a few more things while we are coming heading towards the end of this session. So we have pricing toolbox. It has some tools available that can be very handy when you are deciding about the price tag of your product. And the first one is the pricing psychology. How do you judge if the price that you are paying is fair and it is neither too low nor too big or too high? Pricing is, to a great extent, a function of your circumstances. You are willing to pay more in emergency situations. Buying a cheeseburger for $5 may seem too high if you have just completed a 5-course meal. But if you have not eaten anything for 2 days, you may agree to pay double the price. There are two price references named as internal price referencing or internal reference pricing or the external reference price. So these are the two types. So the internal references and the external references, they can help us in deciding the right price as well. So they depend on multiple factors. So for example, the last time you were into an entertainment park, you paid around $4 per head to get into the park. And today, when you are at the entry gate, you see the entry is priced at $10. It may seem very high, but you may also be forgetting that the last time you visited the park was 10 years ago. So this is an example of internal reference pricing. So some of the factors that you may include or the customer may see is that the external pricing or the external reference price is affected by whatever, looking at the competitive ads, then researching on the internet, visiting several stores, asking a friend or family. So these are all the external references that may have made up the customer's mind or your mind as a customer that what should be the appropriate price of a particular product. Then for the internal pricing, it could be a purchase made last time, as the example I have already given. Recognition of what they might have heard or read. For example, if you have heard that something is manufactured at a place that does not bring with it the high quality, so this reputation of the manufacturing place or a country can actually set up a lower price. So this is called the internal reference price. So also, this is the example that I've already given. If your last visit cost you $4, even if it is 10 years ago, paying $10 now is going to be tough psychologically. Then we have the price skimming. The price skimming is actually setting a price at the highest level the market shall bear. So this is usually valid when there is no competition. For example, you are bringing a patent into the market and you have manufactured something on the basis of your patent where the intellectual property rights lies with you. So you can afford this price skimming. So this is charging the highest price the market shall bear. This is generally possible when you are the only supplier or provider of the service in the market. So usually this is done to cover the R&D and the marketing costs of the new and innovative products, which are in the early phase of their life cycles. So as the competition is going to join soon, this method is generally short-lived. So remaining tools in the pricing toolbox, they may include few more things. For example, there are different pricing. Here we have the prestige or premium pricing. Then we have the odd even pricing. Then partition pricing, captive pricing, and last but not the least is price line. So what we have in prestige or premium pricing over here. So prestige or premium pricing is actually setting a price above that of competition, where people pay as status symbol and the price indicates higher quality. Price is considered proxy of quality. For example, for most of the computer buyers, RAM, ROM, or gigabytes are just terms and they are hardly understood, but they do have a vague impression about the items what customer consider when they buy. So what they consider, the bigger, the better. Bigger RAM, bigger ROM, and more gigabytes, they are willing to pay more. So what they take it as a high-priced computer is better than a low-priced one, the one that has no brand. So everyone, giving another example, everyone agrees that Toyota is a good car, but when it comes to prestige, they want to own BMW or Mercedes. When placing a product in this price category, the care must be taken that everything about the product, like packaging, advertising, distribution, should be matching the price tag. So, despite the fact that the Toyota is widely respected, but when it comes to prestige, people would love to own BMW than Toyota. Then we have the odd even pricing. Numbers, a multiple of 10 are psychological hurdle for the buyers. So 99.99 seems way lower as compared to $100. Similarly, $9.99 is far less than as perceived by the customer when it is compared to 10. So most of the time we see pricing is done like this. This is odd even pricing. Then we have the partition pricing. So in partition pricing, we actually set up a price for a base item and then charge extra for each additional component. Let's take up the example of computers. As a manufacturer, you set the price for computer and everything else you need is extra. So for example, you have the pricing for the computer. For the computer, maybe printer, and you can ask for another $100 And then if you have a printer and the computer, but you need a connecting cable, that should be priced another $30. So this type of pricing is called partition pricing, where the the price is set for a base item and all other extras they are priced separate. So then we have captive pricing. In captive pricing, the entrepreneur or the companies, they sell a base item at a relatively lower price, and then the expendables at higher prices. For example, these ink cartridges. If you can sell the printer for a lower price, or sometimes a printer can be given free for with a high-end computer, but you can easily recover the price of the printer with these additional cartridges which are required. So if someone has bought these ink cartridges for 4 or 5 times, the company can easily recover the price of printer more than what the printer could have cost them. So the price of the replacement ink cartridges is kept high to make it profitable. So once you refill the printer for 3 or 4 times, you end up paying more than the printer's price. So last but not the least is price lining. So price lining is done in order to appeal to different customer markets. You may offer a product range involving low, medium, and high-end products. You may appeal to the customers with different budgets. So for example, here we have game, and then we have the chair. These two are the laundry products. They do the same job, but they are priced at different thresholds for different customers, or, with for the customers with different budgets. So this is how this price lining can be done. This was all about the product and the pricing. So two P's out of the 4 P's that we were supposed to cover. I hope this session will be helpful. Thank you very much. See you next time.